Elena Vasquez had always been good at being invisible. In her marriage to Marcus, she had perfected the art of making herself smaller, quieter, less inconvenient. Their Brooklyn apartment was modest but filled with her touches. Books she'd collected from thrift stores, plants she nursed back to health, photographs from their early days when Marcus still looked at her like she mattered. That Thursday evening in late September, Elena stood at the kitchen counter chopping vegetables for dinner. Her hands moved mechanically while her mind wandered to the pregnancy test she'd taken that morning. 2 lines. Twins the doctor had confirmed just hours ago. Fraternal twins. She had practiced a dozen ways to tell Marcus, each version ending with his smile, his arms around her, his voice saying they would figure it out together. Then the door opened and Marcus walked in, but something was different. He didn't loosen his tie or ask about her day. He didn't look at her. He simply set his leather briefcase on the table, the expensive one he bought after his promotion to senior account manager at Whitmore and Associates. "Elena, we need to talk." She put down the knife. Her heart sank before her mind caught up. Marcus pulled out a chair but didn't sit. He stood behind it, gripping the back like a shield. "I've been thinking about this for months. This isn't working anymore. I'm not the same person I was when we got married 7 years ago. I've grown. I've evolved. And you?" He paused, choosing his words with careful precision. "You're still exactly the same." Elena felt her throat constrict. "Marcus, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need more. Veronica understands the world I'm moving into. She's sophisticated, connected, ambitious. She challenges me. We went to Stanford together, did I ever tell you that? She just moved back to New York. And seeing her again made me realize what I've been missing." Veronica Ashford. Elena had heard the name dropped casually over the past 3 months. A colleague, a friend from college, someone who understood the pressure Marcus was under. "Are you having an affair?" Elena's voice was barely a whisper. Marcus had the decency to flinch. "I haven't been physical with her, if that's what you're asking. But emotionally, yes, I've checked out of this marriage. I think I checked out a long time ago." Elena gripped the counter. The room tilted. She thought about the twins growing inside her, cells dividing and multiplying, 2 hearts beginning to beat. She thought about telling him. The words formed in her mouth, but something stopped her. She looked at Marcus. His designer suit that cost more than their monthly rent used to be. His Rolex purchased after his last bonus. The cold assessment in his eyes as he looked at her, as if calculating her net worth as a human being and finding her lacking. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," Marcus continued. "I want this to be amicable, clean. We don't have much in the way of assets to divide. The apartment is a rental. We can split the savings account, though there isn't much there. You can keep your car. I'll need mine for work." "How generous," Elena said, and was surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. Marcus softened slightly, perhaps mistaking her calm for agreement. "Look, I'm not trying to hurt you. You're a good person, Elena. You deserve someone who can give you the simple life you want. Someone who'll be happy with this." He gestured vaguely at their small apartment, at her second-hand furniture, at her entire existence. "And you deserve Veronica," Elena said. "Exactly. I knew you'd understand." Elena nodded slowly. Inside, something was crystallizing, hardening into diamond-sharp clarity. "I'll sign the papers, Marcus. I won't fight you." Relief washed over his face. "Really? Thank you. This is very mature of you. I just have one condition." Marcus frowned slightly. "What?" "I want the divorce finalized quickly. Within the month if possible. I don't want this drawn out." "Of course. My lawyer said we could expedite it since we're in agreement." Marcus actually smiled then. The first genuine expression she'd seen from him in the past 2 months. "This is really for the best, Elena. You'll see." Elena signed the divorce papers 3 weeks later in a sterile office that smelled of coffee and defeat. Marcus's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Goldstein, slid the documents across the mahogany table. Elena read through each page carefully while Marcus checked his phone, already mentally gone. When she signed her name, Elena felt nothing. No grief, no anger. Just a strange sense of floating, as if she were watching herself from a great distance. "Congratulations," Patricia said with professional cheerfulness. You're officially divorced. Marcus stood immediately. I have a meeting at 3. Elena, I hope everything works out for you. He left without looking back. Elena sat in the office for another 10 minutes, Patricia typing away at her computer, occasionally glancing at her with what might have been pity. Finally, Elena gathered her purse and walked out into the Manhattan afternoon. She was 3 months pregnant with twins. Her ex-husband didn't know and never would. A letter arrived weeks later. Elena almost missed it among the junk mail and grocery store circulars. A thick cream envelope with her name written in elegant calligraphy. No return address. She opened it standing in her apartment doorway. Dear Ms. Elena Maria Vasquez, this firm represents the estate of Sofia Maria Castellanos. We have been attempting to locate you for the past 8 months. Ms. Castellanos passed away in Madrid, Spain on January 15th of this year. According to her will, you are her sole living heir. Elena's knees buckled. She sat down hard on the floor. Sofia Castellanos, her grandmother's younger sister. The family mystery. The woman who had left their small Texas town in the 1960s and never returned. Elena's mother had spoken of her occasionally, always with a strange mixture of admiration and disapproval. Aunt Sophia chose a different path, her mother would say. She wanted more than our little town could offer. Elena kept reading, her hands shaking. The letter detailed an estate worth approximately 43 million euros. Sophia had been a successful art dealer in Madrid, had invested wisely in real estate across Europe, and had never married or had children. She had followed Elena's life from afar through occasional updates from Elena's mother before she passed away. I leave everything to Elena, the will stated, because she alone understood what it meant to make yourself small for someone else's comfort. I did that for many years before I finally broke free. I hope this inheritance allows her to break free as well. Do not be small anymore, mi Sabrina. Be everything. Elena sat on her apartment floor, the letter clutched in her hands, and finally cried. Not from grief or loss, but from the sudden, overwhelming possibility of a different future. The law firm handling Sophia's estate was based in Madrid, but they had a New York affiliate, Sterling and Associates, one of the most prestigious firms in the city. Elena met with James Sterling himself, a silver-haired man in his 60s who treated her with unexpected warmth. Your aunt was a remarkable woman, he said, spreading documents across his desk. She started with almost nothing and built an empire through sheer intelligence and instinct. She had an eye for art that was almost supernatural. She could spot a future master when they were still painting in their garage. The estate included a portfolio of European real estate worth 28 million euros, art collection valued at 12 million euros, cash and securities totaling 3 million euros, a gallery in Madrid's Salamanca district, a villa in Mallorca, various other assets. Converted to dollars and after taxes, Elena would inherit approximately 40 million. James Sterling watched her process this information. I understand this is overwhelming. May I offer some advice? Elena nodded, still numb. Your aunt left specific instructions. She wanted you to take a year before making any major decisions. She set up a trust that will pay you a monthly allowance of $10,000 during this year while you, and I'm quoting here, figure out who you really are without anyone telling you. Elena felt tears prickling her eyes again. She also, James continued, recommended you speak with a particular financial advisor, someone she trusted implicitly. He slid a card across the desk. Catherine Zhang. She specializes in helping women navigate sudden wealth, particularly women who've been underestimated. Catherine Zhang's office overlooked Central Park. She was in her early 40s, dressed in a sharp navy suit, with a directness that Elena found both intimidating and refreshing. First things first, Catherine said after Elena had explained her situation. How pregnant are you? Elena blinked. How did you? You keep touching your stomach when you're nervous. It's unconscious. And you refused the coffee I offered. Catherine smiled. I have 3 kids. I know the signs. 14 weeks. Twins. Catherine nodded. And the father doesn't know. We just finalized our divorce. Good. Keep it that way for now. This is about protecting your children and yourself. Catherine pulled out a legal pad. Here's what we're going to do. First, we establish a new identity for business purposes. You'll still be Elena Vasquez legally, but professionally, you'll need distance from your old life. Over the next 3 hours, they constructed a plan. Elena would become Elena Castellanos professionally, honoring her aunt's legacy. She would establish a foundation for supporting artists and entrepreneurs, particularly women. She would learn the business from the ground up, starting by shadowing Catherine and taking courses in finance, investment, and business management. This isn't just about having money, Catherine explained. It's about understanding power. Your ex-husband left you because he thought you had none. We're going to teach you that you've had it all along. You just didn't know how to recognize it. Elena moved to a larger apartment in the Upper West Side, something with enough space for twins but not ostentatious. She enrolled in executive education programs at Columbia Business School. She spent her evenings reading books on art dealing, real estate investment, and venture capital. The pregnancy progressed. She felt the twins move and kick. She prepared a nursery with 2 cribs, 2 of everything, double joy and double terror. She hired a discreet attorney to ensure Marcus would never have legal claim to her children. The divorce was final before she began showing, and she had been careful to avoid anyone from her old life. As far as Marcus knew, Elena Vasquez had simply disappeared into the 8 million souls of New York City. On a cold February morning, Elena gave birth to 2 healthy babies, Sophia and Samuel. Sophia came first, screaming her arrival with impressive lungs. Samuel followed 12 minutes later, quieter, his dark eyes already seeming to observe the world with careful attention. Elena held them both in the hospital room, one in each arm, and made them a promise. You will never see me make myself small. You will grow up knowing that your mother bowed to no one. The next 4 years blurred together in a controlled chaos of diapers and deal-making, bedtime stories and board meetings. Elena hired help, a nanny, a housekeeper, a personal assistant. But she remained present for every major moment. Sophia's first word. Samuel's first steps. The morning they both learned to climb out of their cribs and ransack the kitchen. Professionally, Elena flourished in ways that surprised even Catherine. She discovered she had inherited more than money from Aunt Sophia. She had inherited an eye, an instinct for recognizing potential before it became obvious. She began investing in small artists, particularly women of color and immigrants whose work was overlooked by mainstream galleries. She bought their pieces early, championed them, connected them with collectors. Within 2 years, 3 of her artists had pieces in the Whitney. Within 4 years, she was invited to sit on the board of the Museum of Modern Art. She diversified into other investments. Technology startups founded by women, sustainable fashion brands, a chain of community art centers in underserved neighborhoods. Everything she touched seemed to grow. Not through luck but through careful research, strategic thinking, and an uncanny ability to see what others missed. The Castellanos Foundation became known for transforming lives. They didn't just give grants, they gave mentorship, connections, belief. Elena understood what it meant to be invisible, and she made it her mission to shine light on those the world tried to ignore. She also understood something else. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about becoming so fully yourself that the person who dismissed you could only stand in the shadow of what they'd lost. While Elena rose, Marcus Chun fell. The descent was gradual at first. His marriage to Veronica Ashford happened 6 months after the divorce, a lavish affair at the Plaza Hotel. Elena saw the photos on social media before she ruthlessly purged all connections to her old life. Marcus looked happy. Veronica looked triumphant in her Vera Wang gown. But Veronica's family wealth came with strings. Her father, Richard Ashford, was a real estate developer with empire ambitions and ethical flexibility. He brought Marcus into the family business, promising him a partnership track if he proved himself valuable. Marcus, eager to finally claim the success he believed he deserved, threw himself into questionable deals. He fudged numbers on property assessments. He looked the other way when inspectors were bribed. He convinced himself that this was just how business worked at the highest levels. Richard Ashford was using him, setting him up as the fall guy for the family's most legally dubious ventures. But Marcus, blinded by the corner office and the executive parking space, couldn't see it. The federal investigation began in year 3 of Elena's new life. The charges involved fraud, money laundering and conspiracy. Richard Ashford had covered his tracks expertly. The evidence pointed overwhelmingly at Marcus. Veronica filed for divorce before the indictment was even unsealed. "I can't be associated with this scandal," she told reporters, playing the role of innocent victim with practiced skill. "I had no idea what Marcus was involved in." Marcus's legal fees consumed his savings. His lawyers were good but not good enough. The trial was a media spectacle. By the end, Marcus was acquitted of the most serious charges but found guilty of fraud and obstruction. He received a 3-year sentence in a minimum security facility, but his reputation was destroyed. When he was released after serving 22 months, he was 42 years old, divorced twice, professionally toxic, and nearly broke. He took a job doing accounting for a small import-export business in Queens, a 40-minute subway commute from a studio apartment in a building that smelled like old cooking oil and regret. Marcus heard the name Elena Castellanos for the first time at a support group for white-collar criminals trying to rebuild their lives. It was held in a church basement in Midtown, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, burnt coffee in styrofoam cups. A guy named Derek was talking about his failed attempt to get funding for a restaurant concept. "I tried everywhere, man. Every bank, every investor. Finally got a meeting with someone from the Castellanos Foundation. You heard of them?" Marcus shook his head. "They're huge in the startup investment space. Focus on giving second chances to people who've been overlooked or who've had setbacks. The woman who runs it, Elena Castellanos, she's like a legend. Came out of nowhere 5 years ago and just started changing lives. They say she's got an instinct for potential that's almost scary." Marcus filed the name away. 2 weeks later, he saw it again in a Wall Street Journal article about impact investing. There was a photo. A woman in her mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, intelligent eyes, standing in front of a colorful mural. The caption read, "Elena Castellanos, founder of the Castellanos Foundation, at the opening of their 15th Community Art Center." Something about her face nagged at him. Something familiar in the set of her jaw, the way she held herself. But no, it couldn't be. His Elena had been soft, uncertain, small. This woman radiated controlled power. Marcus found himself researching her obsessively. The foundation gave grants ranging from $5,000 to $500,000. They focused on people with potential who had been dismissed by traditional systems. Their success rate was remarkable. Over 70% of their funded ventures became profitable, and they specifically welcomed applicants with criminal records. Marcus spent 2 weeks on his application. He pitched an accounting consultancy for small businesses in immigrant communities, people who were underserved by big firms and intimidated by the complexity of American tax law. He emphasized his own fall from grace, his understanding of how quickly life could humble you, his desire to help others avoid the mistakes he'd made. It was the most honest thing he'd written in years. The response came 3 weeks later. Not a rejection but an invitation to an interview. The letter was signed by someone named Catherine Zhang, managing director of investments. Marcus took a personal day from his job. He wore his best remaining suit, the one that had survived the asset liquidation. He took the subway to a gleaming building in Tribeca. The Castellanos Foundation offices were nothing like the cold corporate spaces Marcus remembered from his old life. The walls were covered in art, everything from street photography to abstract paintings. There was a children's play area in one corner, currently occupied by a set of twins, a boy and girl who looked to be about 4 years old, building an elaborate castle out of blocks while a nanny watched over them. Marcus barely glanced at them. He was too nervous, too focused on salvaging his pitch. Catherine Zhang met him in the lobby. She was professional, friendly, efficient. "Elena will be joining us shortly. She likes to meet all our potential grantees personally." They settled in a conference room with glass walls overlooking the city. Catherine reviewed his application, asking sharp questions about his business model, his target market, his growth projections. Marcus answered carefully, drawing on all his old skills, the ones that hadn't atrophied during his time in prison. The door opened. Elena Castellanos walked in. Marcus's breath stopped. She was wearing a charcoal suit, her dark hair longer than he remembered, threaded with a few strands of gray she hadn't bothered to hide. She'd gained weight, the soft roundness of someone who'd carried children. who no longer starved themselves to meet someone else's aesthetic standards. She wore minimal makeup, no jewelry except for a simple silver pendant in the shape of a bird. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. And she was Elena. His Elena. The wife he'd discarded. "Hello, Marcus," she said calmly, sitting down across from him. "It's been a long time." Marcus couldn't speak. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Catherine Zhang looked between them, understanding dawning on her face. "You two know each other?" Catherine asked carefully. "We were married," Elena said simply. "A lifetime ago." Marcus found his voice. "Elena. I had no idea. You're Elena Castellanos. You changed your name." "You." "I became myself," Elena finished. "Professionally, I use my aunt's name. She left me an inheritance 5 years ago. I built this foundation in her honor." 5 years ago. Marcus's mind was racing, calculating. Right after our divorce. 3 weeks after, actually. The letter arrived 3 weeks after I signed the papers. Elena's voice was steady, almost gentle. It was quite a surprise. Marcus felt the room spinning. "You were rich. When we divorced, you were already rich. Or you knew you would be. I found out after you'd already left. After you'd chosen Veronica. After you'd made it very clear that I wasn't enough for the life you wanted." Elena folded her hands on the table. "The inheritance didn't change your decision, Marcus. It just changed my options for dealing with it. Why didn't you tell me?" The words burst out of him. "You could have told me you were about to inherit millions. We could have stayed together. I would have. Stayed with me for my money?" Elena's eyebrow arched. "That's not exactly the compelling argument you think it is." Marcus slumped back in his chair. He felt sick. "All these years. You've been here in New York and I never knew. I've been very careful about maintaining my privacy. The press knows me as Elena Castellanos, philanthropist and investor. Very few people connect me to Elena Vasquez, the woman who used to work at a nonprofit, helping immigrant families navigate the welfare system." She paused. "The woman you were married to." Catherine Zhang cleared her throat. "Elena, should I step out?" "No need. We're here to discuss Marcus's grant application." Elena pulled the file toward her, scanning it with the same careful attention Marcus remembered from their marriage, when she'd review their monthly budget, finding ways to stretch every dollar. An accounting consultancy for immigrant-owned small businesses. "It's actually a good concept." Marcus blinked. "You're still going to consider my application?" "Why wouldn't I? The foundation's mission is to invest in people with potential who've been overlooked or who've experienced setbacks. You certainly qualify." Elena's voice was professional, but her eyes held something else. Not anger. Something more complex. "You made serious mistakes, Marcus. You paid for them. That doesn't mean you don't deserve a second chance." "I don't understand." Marcus shook his head. "After everything I did to you, this isn't about you and me. This is about whether your business concept has merit and whether you've genuinely learned from your experiences." Elena leaned forward. "So let me ask you directly, have you?" Marcus struggled to find words. "I've learned that everything I thought mattered was worthless. The status, the connections, the expensive suits. I lost it all, and the people I thought were my friends disappeared overnight. My second wife divorced me before the ink was dry on the indictment." "That's what you lost," Elena said quietly. "What did you learn?" Marcus was silent for a long moment. Outside the conference room he could hear the twins playing, their laughter light and unconscious. "I learned that I was a fool. That I threw away something real for something shiny. That I measured everything in dollar signs and status symbols, and missed what actually had value." He looked directly at Elena. "I learned that you were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too stupid and arrogant to see it." Elena's expression didn't change. "That's a start. But it's not enough for a grant." Marcus flinched as if he'd been slapped. "What I need to know," Elena continued, "is whether you've learned to value other people's potential the way you want us to value yours. Because this foundation isn't about redemption through business success. It's about using business success to lift others up. Can you do that?" Marcus thought about his pitch, his carefully crafted application. He thought about the immigrant business owners he wanted to serve, the ones he described in abstract terms as a market opportunity. I don't know, he admitted. I want to. Think I can. But I don't know if I've changed enough. Elena studied him for a long moment. Then surprisingly she smiled. That's the most honest thing you've said in this entire meeting. Most people sit here and tell me exactly what they think I want to hear. She closed the folder. Here's what we're going to do. The Castellanos Foundation is going to give you a grant. Not the full amount you requested, but enough to get started. $50,000, with the possibility of more based on your progress. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Elena, I don't. But there are conditions, she continued. You'll report to Catherine monthly. You'll demonstrate that you're not just helping these businesses with their taxes, but that you're mentoring the owners, connecting them with resources, advocating for them. You'll prove that you've learned to see beyond the numbers to the people. I will. I promise. Don't promise me. Show me. Elena stood, extending her hand across the table. Proof that my aunt was right about second chances. Marcus shook her hand, formal and final. Her grip was firm, confident. The hand of someone who knew exactly who she was. Marcus worked harder on his consultancy than he'd worked on anything in his life. Not to impress Elena, though her monthly reviews with Catherine were always in the back of his mind, but because he'd finally found something that mattered. His clients were families like the Nguyen's, who ran a small grocery store in Sunset Park, and were terrified of an IRS audit. Like Maria Rodriguez, who'd started a house cleaning business and didn't understand quarterly tax payments. Like Mr. Kim, who'd operated a successful dry cleaning business for 20 years, but was drowning in paperwork after a minor health scare. Marcus learned their names. He learned about their children, their dreams, their fears. He stayed late to explain things in simple terms. He accompanied Mrs. Chun to the bank when she needed a small business loan, and the loan officer spoke too quickly, deliberately confusing her. 6 months into the grant period, Catherine called him for an in-person review. Your numbers are good, she said, reviewing his reports. But more importantly, your clients are thriving. We've been following up with them independently. They all say the same thing. You actually care. I do, Marcus said, and realized it was true. For the first time in my career, I actually care about the people I'm helping. Catherine smiled. Elena will be glad to hear that. She's been following your progress closely. How is she? The question slipped out before Marcus could stop it. Catherine's expression became guarded. She's well. Busy. The foundation keeps growing. Those kids in the office. I've seen them a few times when I come in. Are they hers? Catherine hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes. Sophia and Samuel. They're 4.5 now. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. She's married. No. She's not married. She's never remarried. Then where's their father? Catherine met his eyes directly. That's not my story to tell, Marcus. If Elena wants you to know, she'll tell you herself. But Marcus was good with numbers, good with dates. He counted backward from the twins' age. 4.5 years old. Born roughly 9 months after his divorce from Elena. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He requested a meeting with Elena. Not through Catherine but directly. He wrote her a letter, old-fashioned pen and paper, delivered to the foundation's office. Elena, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Are Sophia and Samuel my children? Marcus. The response came 2 days later. Not a letter, but a phone call from Elena herself. Yes, she said simply. They're yours. Marcus couldn't breathe. You were pregnant. When I left you, you were pregnant with twins. I found out 2 days before you served me with divorce papers. I was going to tell you that night. But when you walked in and told me I wasn't enough, that you needed someone sophisticated and ambitious, someone who matched your potential. Elena paused. I decided right then that you would never know. That I would protect them from you. Elena, I had a right. You forfeited your rights when you told me I was too small for your life. Her voice was steel. You didn't want me, Marcus. You made that abundantly clear. Why would I believe you'd want my children? Our children. No. My children. Biologically yours, yes. But mine in every way that matters. I carried them. I birthed them. I've been there for every fever, every nightmare, every triumph. You've been a name on a piece of paper that I haven't filed because I've never needed to. Marcus was crying now, silent tears streaming down his face. Can I meet them? Why? Because they're my children. That's biology, not reason. Give me a real reason, Marcus. He struggled to find words adequate to the magnitude of what he'd lost. Because I've spent 5 years learning to be someone different. Someone better. And maybe I could be someone they wouldn't be ashamed to know. Elena was quiet for a long time. I'll think about it. But understand this. If I let you into their lives, it's on my terms. You don't get to disrupt their peace. You don't get to decide you want to be a father and then disappear when it gets hard. And you definitely don't get to make them feel like they weren't enough, the way you made me feel. I understand. Do you? Because I need to be very clear. I am not the woman you left, Marcus. I don't need you. I don't need your approval or your money or your presence in my life. I am whole without you. If I let you meet Sophia and Samuel, it's not because you've earned it. It's because I believe children deserve to know where they come from, even if where they come from is flawed. I know I don't deserve it, Marcus whispered. But I'm asking anyway. Elena arranged the meeting for a Saturday afternoon at Sheep Meadow in Central Park. Neutral ground. Public space. Easy to leave if it went badly. Marcus arrived early, ridiculously nervous. He'd bought gifts and then left them at home, worried they'd seem like he was trying to buy affection. He'd rehearsed what to say and then forgotten everything. He saw them from a distance. Elena sitting on a blanket, the twins playing nearby. Sophia had Elena's dark hair and his own light eyes, an striking combination. She was bossing her brother around, clearly the dominant twin. Samuel was quieter, more thoughtful, watching a group of kids playing frisbee with intense concentration. Marcus approached slowly. Elena saw him first, touching Sophia's shoulder and saying something. Both children turned to look at him. Sophia, Samuel, Elena said calmly. I'd like you to meet someone. This is Marcus Chun. He's your biological father. Sophia studied him with the directness of children who haven't learned to hide their thoughts. You don't look like our daddy. Marcus crouched down to their eye level. I'm not your daddy. Your mom is both your mommy and your daddy, and she does a better job than most people could do with 2 parents. But I am the person who helped make you, along with your mom. Like science? Samuel asked, speaking for the first time. Kind of like science, yeah. Mom says you didn't know about us, Sophia said, still studying him. She says you made a mistake and left before you knew she was having us. Marcus glanced at Elena, who was watching the interaction carefully. That's true. I made a very big mistake. I left your mom because I thought I wanted a different kind of life. But I was wrong. The life I walked away from was the best thing I'd ever had. That was dumb, Sophia said matter-of-factly. Yes, it was. Samuel tilted his head. Are you smart now? The question was so earnest, so genuinely curious, that Marcus almost laughed. I'm trying to be. I'm learning. Being smart isn't just about being good at school or work. It's about recognizing what's important and taking care of it. Mom says the most important thing is taking care of people, Samuel said. Your mom is right. She's right about pretty much everything. They spent an hour together. Marcus didn't try to be their father. He didn't have that right and wasn't fool enough to think he could claim it in an afternoon. Instead, he listened. He learned that Sophia wanted to be an astronaut and a baker when she grew up, and saw no conflict in having 2 careers. He learned that Samuel loved drawing, and could spend hours creating elaborate scenes of dragons and castles. He learned that Elena had raised them to be confident, curious, and kind. When it was time to go, Sophia surprised him by hugging him briefly. You can come again if you want. But you have to ask Mom first. I will. Thank you. Samuel didn't hug him but offered his hand to shake, formal and serious. Marcus shook it gravely. After the twins ran ahead to the playground one last time, Elena stood beside Marcus. Thank you, he said quietly, for letting me meet them. They're remarkable, Marcus said. You've done an incredible job with them. Yes, I have. There was no arrogance in her voice, just truth. I did it alone because I had to, but I would choose to do it alone again. They are the best of me, Marcus. And none of you. It should have hurt, but Marcus understood she was stating a fact, not landing a blow. What you did to me, Elena continued, changed me completely, broke me down to nothing. But from nothing I built everything. I found my aunt's legacy. I found my own strength. I found purpose. You leaving was the worst thing and the best thing that ever happened to me. Marcus nodded. I know I can never make it right. What I did to you. What I missed with them. I threw away something priceless because I was too foolish to recognize its value. Yes, you did. Is there any chance? He trailed off, not even sure what he was asking. For forgiveness? For another chance? For her to say that somehow impossibly they could find their way back to each other? Elena looked at him with something almost like compassion. Marcus, I don't hate you. I don't even resent you anymore. You taught me that I was capable of surviving the worst betrayal and becoming stronger for it. But no, there's no chance of us. That version of me died the day you walked out. The woman I am now wouldn't have wanted the man you were then, and doesn't need the man you're becoming now. I understand. But, Elena added, if you continue to prove yourself, if you show up consistently and build trust with Sophia and Samuel, then maybe you can be part of their lives. Not as a father, not primarily, but as someone who cares about them. Someone who can show them that people can grow and change. I'll do that. I promise. Elena smiled, sad and wise. Don't promise me, Marcus. Promises are just words. Show me through actions. Show them. I'm not offering you a path back into my personal life, but I am offering you a chance to take everything you learned from your mistakes and use it to help others avoid making the same ones. That's worth something. Marcus wiped his eyes. I'll do it. And Elena? I know I can never undo what I did. But I want you to know that not a day goes by that I don't regret it. Not because of the money or the success I missed out on, but because I hurt someone who deserved so much better. You were never too small for any life. I was just too blind to see how extraordinary you were. I know, Elena said softly. I know you regret it, and I believe you've changed. But Marcus, you need to understand something. I don't need your regret. I don't need your recognition of my worth. I know my worth. I built it myself from nothing, after you tried to convince me I was nothing. She set down her wine glass. The greatest revenge I could have taken would have been to reveal myself when you were at your lowest. To have you know that the woman you dismissed was the one holding your future in her hands. I could have humiliated you. I could have refused to see you when you applied for the grant. I could have told our children that their father was a man who valued money over love. But I didn't do any of those things. Do you know why? Marcus shook his head. Because revenge would have made me smaller. It would have meant I was still defining myself in relation to you. And I am so much more than what you made me feel in that moment when you left. Elena's eyes were bright but not with tears. With clarity. The real victory was becoming someone so complete, so whole, that your opinion of me became irrelevant. 5 years later, Marcus stood in the auditorium of the Castellanos Foundation's newest community center, watching Elena give the keynote speech at their annual gala. The foundation had tripled in size over the past 5 years. They now operated in 12 cities, had funded over 1,000 small businesses, and had put 1,500 students through college. Marcus was the COO now, overseeing all the foundation's financial programs. He'd built a team of 30 people, many of them individuals with criminal records who'd been given second chances just like him. His consultancy had been absorbed into the foundation's larger work, expanded and refined. He'd never remarried. He'd dated other people casually but never seriously. He'd realized that he didn't need romantic partnership to feel complete. He had meaningful work. He had a relationship with his children, different from a traditional father-child bond but real and valuable nonetheless. Sophia, now 9, was a force of nature. She decided she wanted to be a civil rights lawyer instead of an astronaut baker. After attending a foundation event where she met a woman who'd successfully sued her former employer for discrimination, she already had opinions on constitutional law that she'd share with anyone who'd listen. Samuel, quieter and more introspective, had been diagnosed with autism at age 6. Elena had handled it with her characteristic grace, finding the best therapists, learning everything she could, advocating fiercely for his needs. Samuel's art had become extraordinary. His unique way of seeing the world translated into paintings that galleries were starting to notice. Marcus had learned about sensory sensitivities, stimming, and the importance of routine. He'd learned to communicate with Samuel on Samuel's terms. The twins knew their story now. Elena had told them, age-appropriately, about the divorce, about Marcus's mistakes, about his long journey to becoming someone trustworthy. They accepted him. Elena finished her speech to thunderous applause. She was 43 now, confident and powerful, with gray streaking through her hair that she wore like a crown. She'd never remarried either. She'd dated occasionally, but as she'd told Marcus once, I spent 7 years making myself smaller for someone else. I'm not interested in doing that again. If someone comes along who celebrates my fullness instead of demanding I shrink, maybe. But I'm not holding my breath, and I'm certainly not searching. After the gala, the foundation's leadership team gathered for a private celebration. Catherine was there, still managing investments with her characteristic precision. James Sterling, now semi-retired, had flown in from Madrid. Various board members and key donors mingled, celebrating another successful year. Marcus found himself standing next to Elena, looking out over the city lights. Do you ever think about how different things would be if I'd made a different choice that night? Marcus asked. If I'd stayed. Elena considered the question seriously. Sometimes. But then I remember that the version of you that would have stayed was staying for the wrong reasons. You didn't love me, Marcus. You loved the idea of having someone safe and comfortable who wouldn't challenge you. If you'd stayed, you would have resented me eventually. And I would have kept making myself smaller, trying to keep you happy. You're probably right. I know I'm right. Elena smiled. The path we took was painful, but it led us both to becoming better people. You had to lose everything to learn what actually mattered. I had to be abandoned to discover my own strength. Neither of us would be who we are if things had gone differently. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really forgive me? Elena turned to face him fully. Marcus, I forgave you years ago. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending you didn't hurt me. It means I released the hold that hurt had on me. I let it go so I could move forward. But you'll never trust me the way you did before. No, Elena agreed. That kind of trust, that innocent belief in someone's goodness, can only be broken once. But I trust you differently now. I trust that you've done the work. I trust that you understand what you lost and why. I trust that you're committed to being better. That's a different kind of trust, earned through actions instead of assumed through love. In some ways, it's stronger. Marcus nodded, accepting this truth. Besides, Elena added with a slight smile, you've been an excellent COO. You've more than earned your place here. High praise from Elena Castellanos. Don't let it go to your head. They stood together in silence, two people who'd hurt each other and healed in different ways, who'd found a way to coexist not despite their history, but because of what they'd learned from it. The greatest revenge, Elena said to herself quietly, isn't hurting the person who hurt you. It's becoming so completely yourself that their opinion becomes irrelevant. It's building a life so full, so meaningful, so powerful that the pain they cause becomes just one thread in a much larger tapestry. Lessons from the journey for the viewers. This story isn't just about revenge or redemption. It's about the transformative power of being underestimated. Lesson 1. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Elena could have spent years trying to prove to Marcus that she was enough. Instead, she understood that his assessment of her was his problem, not her reality. Lesson 2. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for your greatest transformation. If Marcus hadn't left, Elena would never have discovered her own strength. Pain, while terrible, can be productive if we let it teach us. Lesson 3. People can change, but they shouldn't be given the same relationship they had before. Marcus genuinely transformed himself, but that didn't mean Elena owed him romantic reconciliation. Growth deserves acknowledgement, not a return to old dynamics. Lesson 4. The best revenge is becoming so complete that revenge itself becomes irrelevant. Elena didn't need to humiliate Marcus when he came begging. She'd already won by becoming someone so far beyond his judgment that his opinion no longer mattered. Lesson 5. Never make yourself smaller to make someone else comfortable. Take up space. Be unapologetically yourself. Your fullness is not a problem to be solved. The final truth. Marcus didn't lose Elena because she became rich and powerful. He lost her the moment he decided she wasn't enough. Everything that came after, the fortune, the success, the foundation, the extraordinary life, all of that simply illuminated what he'd thrown away. Elena didn't win by surpassing Marcus. She won by becoming so fully herself that comparison became meaningless. And that, dear viewers, is the kind of victory that changes not just your life but the world around you. What lessons do you take from Elena's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear that being underestimated isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning. Subscribe for more stories that explore the complexity of human transformation. And remember, you are enough exactly as you are. Anyone who can't see that is revealing their limitations, not yours.